Welcome to L&M channel. This time we will present a Korean drama entitled Night Shop, which is a mystery and horror genre. Let's start with the first and second episodes. A man named Hyun-min always goes home from work at midnight by bus. Several times he saw a woman in white with a suitcase beside her, sitting at the bus stop. Although curious, because the woman always sat in the same place, he ignored her because he didn't know the woman. Then on the third night, he greeted the woman and asked what the woman doing. And the woman replied that she was waiting. Hyun-min wondered what she was waiting for, because she didn't take the last bus. And the woman said that her cell phone was lost. Then when Hyun-min wanted to lend her cell phone, he was shocked to see his cell phone cracked because it's previously fine. When Hyun-min asked what her number, the woman didn't say her number. She asked instead, didn't Hyun-min recognize her? But Hyun-min felt like he had never met her before, so he left the woman. And the next day, when he went home, Hyun-min got off the bus and immediately held an umbrella for the woman, because it was raining heavily. The woman asked again if Hyun-min recognized her. Hyun-min answered of course, because they met yesterday and 2 days ago. Then Hyun-min told the woman to hold his umbrella, because his house was closed so he could run home. The woman felt that since they had met and Hyun-min recognized her, she asked if they would meet again tomorrow, because it was almost midnight and the day would change. And the woman also said that she didn't have much time, she was cold and Hyun-min's house was also closed. Then Hyun-min invited the woman to stop by his house and they went together. Until in front of his apartment, Hyun-min still felt a little strange and he offered to call a taxi. But the woman asked him to open the door of his house and they entered the elevator together. Hyun-min was a little nervous and then invited the woman to come in. When he wanted to turn on the lights, the woman forbade him and left the place dark. Then the woman went in and the door closed by itself. Meanwhile, in a hospital, a senior nurse, Mrs. Hyo, has a problem with her eyes. Her vision is blurry and she often sees things floating. Her coworkers think it's because they often work overtime and work too hard. Then they invite her to eat instant noodles, but Mrs. Hyo is worried that the smell will spread. Then Young-ji tells them to eat in the locker room, because she has finished eating cherry tomatoes. As the person in charge of the ICU, Young-ji must stay there to guard the monitor and they go to eat. Suddenly there is a man walking back and forth in the ICU room, even though only authorized personnel are allowed to enter and ICU visits are also not allowed at night. Then the man asks Young-ji, where is the morgue? Suddenly the monitor screen sounds and Young-ji calls her friends. They immediately check the patient's condition and wonder how the oxygen tube came off. Mrs. Hyo tells the nurses to always be alert and Young-ji suddenly remembers the man. But the man is no longer in the room. There is a man shivering with cold and there is also the sound of a dog barking that bothers him. He shouts for the dog's owner to stop the dog barking. Yoon Won-young works as the manager of the shop. His behavior and appearance as a shopkeeper are quite mysterious because he wears a coat and sunglasses. Suddenly the man who was previously in the ICU entered Won-young's shop. The man seemed confused seeing the many lights there, and Won-young asked what he could help with, but the man didn't answer and instead went out of the shop. There was a man who was previously shivering with cold, who entered Won-young's shop. He said he had a house, but even though he had turned on the heater, he was still cold. When he wanted to hold a lamp, suddenly the lamp and Won-young's glasses seemed to freeze. Won-young told the man not to touch his things. Then the man looked for a dog that passed in front of his shop, but Won-young felt like he didn't see it and the man went to look for the dog. Hyun-ju is a high school student. When in class it suddenly rained heavily and one of her friends told a scary story. She heard that there was a student at their school who was unknown to anyone. No one knew that there was a student who had seen her. And there were 2 empty chairs in each class. They then went home from school on foot, while it was still raining heavily. When they arrived at an alley, the student told a story about the alley. She had heard that there was someone who often wandered there at night. And the alley was very dark, but Hyunju was not afraid because at the end of the alley it was very bright. When her friends ran because of fear, Hyunju dared to go through the alley because she had to buy a lamp ordered by her mother. She saw someone walking towards her and then she ran and entered Wanyang's shop. It turned out that Hyunju was used to buying lamps at the shop and Wanyang also knew her. Wanyang gave an unwrapped candy for Hyunju, even though Hyunju was no longer a kid. Hyunju was curious about Wanyang's age and why did Wanyang always wear glasses. Wanyang explained that the light in his shop was too bright and his eyesight had gotten worse while working there. And the shop was open at night until sunrise and Hyunju was very grateful because it was so bright there and she could pass because of Wanyang's shop. The alley she passed was very dark and also scary. It was said that there were ghosts around there. And Hyunju had just seen it even though it wasn't very clear. Wanyang was a bit surprised to find out that Hyunju could see it and he asked Hyunju to listen to him. Maybe Hyunju saw something that was invisible to others. There are some people like that, and Hyunju might be one of them who saw a stranger. Wanyang saw it too. When running this shop alone, all Wanyang met were customers. So, she got used to observing customers closely. Most of them were ordinary people. But there were some who were a bit strange and they mixed in with other people. Observe them to find out there was something different about them and it was hard to notice them. So Hyunju had to observe them to realize it. Hyunju had to be careful with strangers. If she met them, she had to pretend not to see them and if she had already seen, pretend not to notice something strange. Strangely, in the mirror of the table, looks Wanyang, who looks old and Hyunju does not realize it. Then Wanyang gives a flashlight that can be turned on when turned for Hyunju. She can use it in dark places and Hyunju thanks Wanyang, who she calls uncle. Back to the woman in white, who entered Hyunmin's house. Because the woman's body is wet, Hyunmin takes a towel for her. While using the towel, Hyunmin sees the woman's hand that is strange. Hyunmin is very scared but still tries to stay calm. Then the woman opens her suitcase containing scissors and carving tools. She holds scissors and at that time Wanyang looks old while staring at the flashing lights. Hyunju sees when the woman comes out of Hyunmin's house. When passing by, Hyunju greets the woman and the woman stops. The suitcase she is carrying is dripping with fresh blood. Seon-hae, a writer looking for a quiet house to live in. She doesn't like apartments because her neighbors are too close and this house is suitable because it is in an alley and the houses around it are empty. There is a room that can't be opened and the seller argues that the room still needs repairs, so it can't be opened. That's why the house has a low deposit, but according to Seon-hae, even though it's cheap it shouldn't be like this. But there is no other place that is cheap and fits her budget so Seon-hae accepts the house. She then arranges her house and cleans her house. She puts a mirror near the closed room and also closes the door with a curtain. A male student named Ji-woong passes through the alley and he walks while singing so that he is not afraid. The more he walks the more afraid he feels and he runs while singing. Until Seon-hae hears it and disturbs her concentration. Ji-woong sings loudly because he is very scared and he arrives in front of the light shop. Seon-hae falls asleep in front of her laptop and at that time there is a shadow behind her and the lights suddenly go out by themselves. Behind the door of her house it also looks like someone is walking away. It rains and makes the atmosphere become scary. The lights also go out, which makes Seon-hae upset because she can't read a book. And the alcoholic is delirious by himself. When in the ICU, he tells people who approach him to stay away from him, even though the only ones who approach him just a nurse. She was forced to be treated in the ICU because the hospital lacks inpatient space. Then the doctor meets the patient's family and says that they have tried their best and now it depends on the patient's determination. Because in the end, the patient's determination to live is the most important. But the patient's family feels frustrated and asks what the hospital has done for the patient. While drying her hair, Sian-hye feels something strange on the door of the room that can't be opened. At the same time, Ji-woon walks down the alley and he seems to see someone walking in front of him. From inside the house, Sian-hye hears Ji-woon singing again, and suddenly the lights go out again and she sees the door to the room slightly open. She is curious and peeks into the room and then opens the door. Young-ji goes into the toilet and suddenly someone knocks on the toilet door. Then, there is a woman's voice asking Young-ji. She's talked about the patient's determination to live like what the doctor said before. Young-ji felt sorry and asked because they had tried their best. Then the woman asked, how does that determination work? How can a seriously ill person have determination, even though he is unconscious? Actually, Young-ji always thought about it. She had also been in a coma during a major accident. And at that time the doctor also said the same thing to her mother. The patient's determination is the most important. Her mother was sad because she didn't understand what doctor meant and she thought the possibility was zero. However, Young-ji came to, and she didn't know how she could regain consciousness. It was likely a prayer from her mother. She wanted to give Young-ji determination, so Young-ji thought maybe it wasn't just her determination. Her profession is now a nurse, but she doesn't know how people have determination when they are unconscious. Honestly, she doesn't know where the determination came from and they can only wait and try everything. Suddenly the door tried to be opened from the outside and the lights also went out and came back on and scared Young-ji. The woman seemed frustrated because it seemed like they were at a dead end and asked Young-ji to do something. Suddenly a scary person appeared from above the toilet door. Then a janitor called Young-ji and she disappeared and the situation returned to normal. Sian-hye entered the room and saw a light that was on and then turned it off. She saw Ji-woon who likes to sing and bothers her. When she asks why Ji-woon always sings, Ji-woon is scared and leaves. When school is over, one of Hyunju's friends falls asleep. Her two friends let her and go home first, while Hyunju tries to wake her up. She wakes up for a moment and tells Hyunju to let her sleep. Then Hyunju lets her and leaves her sleeping alone in the classroom. Hyunju goes home through the dark alley again. She turns on the flashlight given by Won-young. In the middle of the road, the flashlight goes out and she tries to turn it on again. Suddenly in front of her there is a woman in red shoes. The woman sees her and Hyunju offers to hold an umbrella for her. The woman asks who she is and where she is going. Then Hyunju answers that she is a student who wants to go to the light shop. The woman leaves and Hyunju chases her and holds an umbrella for her. They walk together and suddenly the woman's hair becomes long. Hyunju becomes scared. She remembers Won-young's words. If you meet a stranger, to pretend not to see her. But the woman walks with strange and her body became very tall. Of course it made Hyunju very scared. She remembers Won-young's words. Again, if you see it, pretend not to realize something strange. She told the woman to go home immediately, because her mother was waiting for her. Hyunju walked quickly and when she looked back, she saw a woman walking towards her and Hyunju ran, while screaming. Won-young heard it and came out of the shop. Hyunju, who was scared, asked her uncle for help. Won-young asked Hyunju to go home and then Won-young took off his glasses. The woman stopped and turned around. Her body also shrank to normal size like a normal human. Hyunju's friend, who was sleeping, woke up and found herself alone in the classroom. When there was lightning, a foreign student was seen sitting on an empty bench. She said, "You saw it too?" "I saw it too." While in the middle of the road, Ji-woon met a woman carrying a suitcase. He then held an umbrella over the woman and the woman asked where he was going. Ji-woon replied that there was a lighting store nearby and if he got to that store, then he could go home. Then he asked the woman to go with him to the light store. As they walked together, the woman asked if Ji-woon was alone, and Ji-woon answered that he was alone. While Sian-hye was annoyed because the lights in the living room were always off. She took a flashlight and took a shower with the flashlight on. After taking a shower, she saw a lot of hair in the drain, and Sian-hee was shocked. When she came out of the bathroom, suddenly the bathroom door closed by itself and made Sian-hee shocked. At the same time, Ji-woon said to the woman that this alley was always dark, then the window lit up like now. When looking at the window, it turned out that there was a woman there, but there was also someone else behind her and they were together. Sian-hee felt that there was something strange when she lived in the house. The lights in the house went out because there was a creature that wanted to hide in the darkness. The creature was in the house with Sian-hee. And the woman carrying the suitcase was curious if they knew each other, then she wanted to enter the house. But Ji-woon held her hand and Ji-woon was shocked when he saw the woman's hand. The woman said that Ji-woon was not much different from her and at that time Ji-woon saw her feet, which were like broken. He tried to get out of the alley with difficulty walking. She screamed and asked for help, but no one came to help her. How many times she walked, she always went back past Sian-hee's house, and he cried because he was so frustrated. And Sian-hee also wanted to get out of the house, but she forgot her house password. She took a hammer and broke the glass door, but the door still wouldn't open. She screamed for help, and Sian-hee was very frustrated because she couldn't open her own door and no one came to help her. The woman carrying the suitcase entered the light shop and Wan Yang asked what he could help her with. At first the woman ignored him and just looked at the lights. Then the woman answered that she needed something. And at that time someone else entered the shop. It turned out that he was a man from the police.
경찰입니다.